Everybody, how's it going?
Hey, Fooksters, happy July 4th. It's actually July 5th
Yes.
right now, 2022. Is July 4th a big deal down in
Nothing.
Ecuador, where
Like,
you live?
man, we remember
Nothing.
when Will Smith saved the Earth, like 20 years
Right.
ago with like Independence Day. That's it.
Right. Well, so the audience may notice I have a different background than my usual background. So my daughter has moved out of this room, and now this is my
Oh,
office, and she has a bigger bedroom. So she has a little independence, a little bit more
how old is she?
independence. And ever since she's
Okay,
13
yeah,
now.
getting into the teens, man.
But ever since she had her own room, oh my God, she has been staying up late at night. She's been very independent. But I've been rewarding her
Okay,
accountability by giving her freedom.
okay.
And actually, that's what I want this theme of the show to be about. So, as you know, guys, welcome, Fooksters. This is a show about reality. About this is a real startup. We're actually doing two startups here. We're doing Phuc Labs, which is a startup where we are using AI to essentially filter things out of water, which is pretty cool. And then we also are running a startup where Roberto's leading it, where we're doing a bootstrapped company where we are going to do a real estate self-service company. And so in this show, I wanted to highlight that both of these companies are at zero. We're basically at the beginning of
The
our
journey, yeah.
journey. Yes, and we're basically breaking free from the VC market by going to Republic. So the venture capital market is where we've been in terms of Phuc Labs. We've been trying to raise money there, and the whole economy has just crashed recently. I'm not sure if you know about the news, right,
I've
Roberto?
been, man, I used to have some Bitcoins. I still do. And I can see that went down, so it usually follows a trend. So what's happening in the States, man?
Right. So basically, the whole dot com boom. This is the dot com boom
Yep.
part two. But fortunately, we have a very demonstrable product that has made a lot of good progress, and we feel like we can actually make money by raising money on Republic.com, which is a crowdsourced funding website where regular people can put a minimum of just $150 and put that money into our company as an investment, like a stock, right? So
Yep.
basically, they get to own stock in our company by buying a small piece of it. And all we need is 2,000 people to join our journey, and each person who, let's say they cut $400 or $500 check, which is the average on Republic, we will be able to raise the $1 million that we need to
Can you
keep going.
explain like
But
how does that work? Like if I put money into Republic, do I get like a little document that says, you know what, Fook Labs is, I own this much of it, and what's the chunk? Let's say like Republic. Because honestly, like a lot of people, I'm guessing first time they've heard about it or they know they can actually contribute to whatever projects they really believe in. So yeah,
yeah, sure. So actually, let me take a step
okay,
back, guys. I actually did economics at Harvard, so I know a little bit about economics, and I know a little bit about how the process works. So the way you can think about it is this: um, there are people with an idea. So like people like me, like the entrepreneurs with an idea. There are people who want to start a company, and they need money. So that's the basis of basically
yep.
capitalism. You have someone who has an idea, but they don't have money. And then on the other side, you have someone who has money, but they don't necessarily have an idea that they want to do right now. And they're willing to let someone borrow the money. And if the company does well or the investment does well, they want to be able to make a return back of their investment. That's basically the process of demand. There's some demand for money, and there's some supply for money. So the people who have money are the supply of money. Those are called investors. And then sometimes you have regular people be investors, but sometimes you have companies be investors, or even schools and hospitals and nonprofits or institutions be investors.
Okay.
Okay, so depending on who you're trying to get money from, if you want to get the biggest check, who do you go to?
The
Who do you
government,
think? What, right, the government?
like
Maybe like a college, like an
yeah.
institution that has a lot of money, like a hospital may have a lot of like millions of dollars and that they want to invest, or maybe a pension fund,
Yeah,
a pension fund. Yeah, and these guys don't really know what to do
It-
in terms of
okay.
investment because that's not their specialty. They run a hospital, they run a school, they run whatever, the
Okay.
government,
Yep.
right? So what they do is they hire a middleman. So they hire a middleman, and this middleman typically creates some type of company. And this company is called a venture capital company. And it's a partnership. Okay. So it's a partnership where there's going to be someone who's the middleman. The middleman that actually doesn't have money at all.
Okay.
They don't have any money.
They just
But
broker.
they have their smarts, they have their
Okay.
brains, they have their brains, and they're going to take the money from the people who have money, but they don't know how to manage the money. And then that middleman is going to charge you 1% a year. They're going to charge you 1% a year so they can manage your money and make it more. And each time you make more
They make
money,
more money.
for every dollar extra you
Yeah.
make, they'll also get 20 cents. They'll get 20 cents for every dollar they make you. So let's say I have a endowment. Let's say I'm Harvard, or let's say I'm MIT, or let's say I'm a hospital, or let's say I'm the government, like you were saying.
Okay.
I put $1 million
Mhm.
in. Every year, I have to pay these guys 1%.
On that
So
million
one
though.
percent of
Okay.
$1 million. Yes, on the $1 million. So 1% of $1 million is $10,000, something like that, right? So every year I pay them 10,000 just for breathing, for thinking about me. Okay. Along the
Mhm.
way, they will make investments where they take the $1 million and give it to people like me, and then they would go ahead and then give back the money about 10 years. Now, hopefully, after 10 years, that $1 million becomes $3 million,
In 10 years.
$2 million
Okay.
in 10 years. That's pretty good because that's the deal. I'm going to double your money. I'm going to triple your money in 10 years.
Okay.
Okay? But because I triple your money and I made you $2 extra, I'm going to keep 40 cents. I'm going to keep 20% for my trouble. Because that's a lot of work to find that right and I have to mentor that company, I have to work with that company. I'm the middleman who takes your money and I invest it and I make sure your investment does well.
Okay.
How
So
about that?
so
For
you get
20%.
1% of the initial amount and 20% of the gains
No, 1% per
of
year.
the initial amount.
So I get 10% basically for 10
Okay. Yeah.
years
And 20%
plus
of the
20%
gains. Okay.
performance. Performance. So I get 30%.
Yeah.
But 10% is
Yeah.
guaranteed. But if I lose your money, I get nothing else.
But like, what's your
Okay,
accountability
that's the
though?
deal. My accountability is if I lose your money, I never do business ever again. No one gives me money again.
No, you still lost my money. Then what?
Then basically I never do it again.
Okay.
That's why right
Yeah.
now, if you look at the market, if you look at the venture capital
Okay,
market,
it's very reputation based.
think about that
Yeah.
middleman. Think about who that
Uh huh.
middleman is, right? So there's a couple of middlemen. There are people who've done this for a long time. Those are the traditional VCs who've been there for a
Okay.
long time, right? So those folks are Andreessen Horowitz, Sequoia, names like Tiger Global, and these companies. Some of them have done well. Some of them have not done well. Some of them have shut down.
Oh.
Actually, some of them, the VCs, have fought with each other, and they would break up the company sometimes.
Okay.
Or sometimes there'll be greed involved where this middleman wants to keep everything in the next generation. That person refuses to hire, and then the company slowly dies.
Ah man.
Or maybe the next generation takes over and they change it and they grow it bigger and it becomes different and becomes bigger and bigger. It morphs into something else. Like Andreessen Horowitz was smaller, but now super
Okay.
big. And now you have these super funds that are super big because guess what happens? That 1% is guaranteed a year. Sometimes these guys charge 2% if they're really, really, really crafty. They say, "Well, I'm so good, you have to give me 2%.
Okay.
And I'm so good, you have to give me 30%, not 20% of what's called the carry." So the carry is the performance, how much I get of the extra money that I make for you, right? But I have to pay you back first. So the dollar you gave me, the $1 million you give me, I have to get the $1 million back
And
first,
then
plus all the fees, so that 10%. And then on top of that, I'll get anything, 20% of anything on top of that only.
okay, so it is like very
So it seems actually seems very
Yeah, yeah.
reasonable, right? Seems
That
pretty
makes sense.
reasonable, right?
And it's very reputation based. I mean, like if you mess
Because
up once or like that's it. So you don't want to mess up ever. If that all you have is
so let's say you,
your like your portfolio or your word of the all the places that you've managed and everything. Okay.
okay, so let's say you have $100 million fund, right? So then let's say you convince somebody to give you $100 million to invest. Now you're going to invest that over a course of 4 years, 3 years, 5 years, something like that. And it's going to require that you get another fund, and then another fund. And by your second or third fund, your first fund will actually start making money for your customers. So the whole game for the VC world is to create fund one, invest about 5 companies, 10 companies, 20 companies, whatever your investment theme is, and then keep doing this as long as you can. And basically, this is your career: is to invest other people's money with zero risk of your own, except your
Okay.
reputation, which is a
Yeah.
lot,
Well, just
because that's basically your
exactly.
livelihood. It's like, but when you finish the first 10 years, you would have made a couple $1 million minimum
Okay.
because you were in that world, because you would have been paid a salary, and also maybe your investments didn't work out, but the firm's other funds might have worked out. Fund one might have worked out. Fund two worked out. Fund three, and even though your individual investments didn't work out, your partner's investments might have worked out. So that's why these VC guys, the
Yeah.
middlemen, they usually join in a group of 3 or 4 people, maybe 2 people, maybe one person, rarely, but mostly about 2, 3, 4 people who diversify,
Okay.
but they also have someone to talk to and some bros, usually bros, because they're usually white tall guys from San Francisco and other parts of the U.S., right? And maybe Europe, but rich, usually people who like to hang out with each other. And now what they do is they pair themselves with some more diverse talent, which I think is very
Okay.
fair because they're actually trying to change, which is a
Well,
great
yeah. Well,
part about the
Chad and
industry. They
Randy
are
weren't pulling it
trying to
in.
change, but ultimately, they're also trying to invest in people who look like a certain profile. They have a pattern
Okay.
recognition, and I don't think they invest in people with Phuc a lot. So I've had issues clearing market sometimes because I believe that there is a little bit of bias for a certain profile of people that they want to invest in, and that's fine. But that hasn't stopped me. So I
Man,
fundraised.
racism has been like a huge part of the states for a while now, and I feel that it's just getting.
No,
It has. Like,
it's not that. You know
what
what
is
it
it?
is? Okay, just think of this way, man. You got 10
Okay.
shots. You got 10 lottery tickets to bet on. Now, is it your job to do the affirmative action, or is it your job to do the thing that you think is going to make you look good and not get fired, and also give you the maximum upside? Now you have
The
two
second one,
choices.
like nobody really cares about how they look.
You got this guy, this person who looks very very pickable. You never get fired. Let's say it's
Okay.
Nike. You go to the store and buy your kid a Nike shoe for his birthday. Okay, the Nike shoe may be super ugly. The selection there is ugly, but it doesn't matter. You know your kid loves
Yeah, that's
Nike.
it.
So you can either buy the Nike shoe or you can see this fantastic shoe that's perfect for him, but it's a different brand.
Yeah.
Now it's kind of a risk, but it's about the same in terms of happiness. You think if this works out, this works out, but maybe give or take. You can go with Nike because you love your son
Yeah, it's your value, man. It's sure value.
and you love your money, you love your customers, you love your reputation, you love getting in the next fund. You don't love this other brand so much.
Yeah. Yeah.
You love the safety, and you can't blame them. I'll do the same thing. But that doesn't stop us because what you need to do is prove traction, that you can build the product, all this other stuff. But what I realized over the years, I'm 45 now, right? And basically, these guys always say it's too early, universally.
But like, do they say
So
it like
too
in a way
early is
of giving themselves an out? Uh,
correct. So this is what's called the
yeah.
brush off. You know what the
Yeah.
brush
Yeah.
off is in sales?
Yeah. When they're like,
The brush off is, let's say you have a little pesky mosquito and you brush
yeah,
them off.
like don't call me, I'll call you.
You don't want to kill them. You don't want to kill them, right? If they fly back, maybe they look a little bit more attractive, and they're butterfly now, and maybe you want to hang out with them instead. But right now, you just want to brush them off, but not be too
Okay.
mean. But also keep your opportunities open, but also don't have a bad reputation. Okay, so let's say you go on a date, and you go on a date, and you find out you don't have a match for this person. Let's say you go on a Tinder date, and somehow you swiped right, and then the photo did not match. The photo did not match somehow, right?
Catfish.
So you show up at a date, and you're super nice, and she's super nice, and you get along personally, and but then you don't want to go on a date with her,
Yeah, yeah.
right? So what are you gonna do?
Add her on LinkedIn.
Well, it depends. So the character of the VC is a character of a professional breakupper. So think about the VC, like the middleman.
Okay.
Their job is to go ask for money from people who are rich. What's one skill. So they have to be good at sales. Sales for the right people, not just everybody, not just the common man, but sales for rich folk. Okay, that's one skill. So maybe you don't even have the skill, you have a connection because your parents are rich, or maybe you come from China and you have connections to Chinese wealth.
Okay. You have some
Right?
sort
And
of
you
usefulness.
get a
Yeah.
job there. So when you see an Asian person in an investment bank or some position of power in a financial firm, or an Indian person or something like that, I wouldn't say all of them, but I would say there's a fair share that was given that opportunity because of the connections to the flow of money. Okay. Because instead of playing golf, you play mahjong, and you speak the language. You went to Harvard, MIT, but you also speak Chinese, and you came from the village they came from, and you have that connection. Because it's a sales
Yep.
job.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm just telling you the truth. There's nothing wrong with it. Everyone has to make a living, man.
Yeah. You use whatever advantages you can get. And if we just happen to be from the
So you
same
go to Harvard,
place,
you go to MIT, you go to all these great institutions, and you go become an iBanker, and you package it up in a nice bow with a nice suit, with nice speech, with good stories, with good golfing, good tennis, good everything, so that someone can cut you a $10 million check. If that person cuts you a $10 million check, you make partner. Because you basically are the sales guy that brought in $10 million out of the $100 million fund.
man.
And if you do more and more of that, and let's say you go to more cocktail parties and you raise
Yeah.
this money, and these guys are all called LPs. LPs are limited partners, are basically the dates that you have to conquer. So pretend you're Casanova, and you have to go woo all these women, and these women have to cut you a check. And at the end of it, you have $100 million to invest. So you have to be Casanova to these these investment bankers are essentially going out on professional dates with people with money to earn their trust so they can give them a $10 million check. And if they do 10 good dates, they have $100 million, of which 10 million is coming their way over the next 10 years in salary and other expenses.
Yeah,
That's
no, it is.
nice. So you just won the lottery ticket, right? For for pimping yourself out, and for 10 years of UX advice, you get paid 10 million
Pretty good.
bucks. Because you're expensive. You're not just a regular call
Nope.
girl or a regular, whatever
Not getting you with a
prostitute.
beer.
You're giving a service. You're a professional, right? Be a consultant, whatever you want to call it. So you can go any degree. So people can be derogatory, say bad things, but I say it's actually a living, where you try to make a living by convincing really smart people to give you a lot of responsibility, because that's really hard. Because a lot of people can trash that, but go ahead and try to do that yourself,
Exactly.
right? You have to have an
Yeah,
education.
yeah, yeah.
You have to have
And there's
reputation.
so many factors that
And guess what? You can also be Bernie Madoff too. You can be Bernie Madoff and be full of shit and get away with it. You can also be Theo Epstein, right? Because those rich people have weaknesses. What are their weaknesses?
I don't know.
What do you think Bernie Madoff got away with?
Why did he get away with it?
Yeah, what was his angle? Because everyone has a sales angle. What was his sales angle?
I don't know. Didn't he make it look like it was something exclusive? And that man, like, what was
No.
it?
His sales angle was actually a very ethical one. It was actually very, very, very smart. So he targeted the Jewish
Okay.
community. He targeted people who were regular people who were very conservative. He dressed conservatively. He went to the conservative parties. He spoke conservatively, and his returns were always conservative.
Okay.
They were never the
They're just
best.
safe.
It wasn't 30%. It wasn't crazy like 30%. It wasn't 10%, which is the stock market. It was like 14, 13%, whatever the percentage was. It was something a little bit better,
Hmm.
noticeably better, but not so scary that it looked like you were gambling.
Okay. Okay.
And it was
Yeah.
consistent. It was consistent. He'll make up numbers. But the thing is, when you make up these fake pyramid schemes, you have to sell an angle. His angle was bet on me because I'm not the risky bet. I'm the sure thing. That's 2% more than 10% is
Hmm.
12%. But I'm the person you can trust because I'm Bernie Madoff.
That is pretty.
You can trust me.
Man, it takes a lot of consistency within like throughout his character and the way he was, and the way he lived and worked, and the way he was perceived by people as well. That's not easy, man.
Yeah. And he got away with it because that angle is always the best angle. It's like the quiet but deadly angle. Like you don't want to be the one that you want to shave pennies. You shave a little pennies. You don't want to be a little too greedy because when you're greedy, you blow up really quickly,
Okay.
right? You blow up really quickly because people can. It's like the balloon. It's like a master balloonist. When they try to have a balloon go and float, you can't. You gotta pop the balloon if you pump too much air
Yep.
too fast.
Yeah.
But if you pump the air slowly, no one's gonna notice the balloon's growing so big that by the time it's that big, it's too late. And then guess what? Knowing his reputation, but the reputation of people who recommended his product. Because once he duped one person, that person got duped. Even if they found out, I'm like, oh my god, I don't want to be the one that unravels this. I'm gonna retire in about 3 years. Let's keep this going for a little bit.
Okay.
Let's just make sure I'm not part of
Yeah.
it. When it goes down, I'm not gonna go down. So that's the beginning of the pyramid scheme. The pyramid scheme is built on itself because there are people involved who also make money,
Yeah.
and that
It's always like
yeah.
that lower
So
slab of
anyway,
the pyramid that gets fucked like bad. But you don't want to be that one. So you just keep passing on the burden
so
to the next guy.
yeah, so those scammers include people like Theo
Okay.
Epstein. Now Theo Epstein, you know what his angle was?
No.
Okay, so his Theo Epstein was there are a couple of people who are successful in the world. There are people who are successful early, and there are people who are successful late. Those two types
Hmm.
of people, right? The people who are successful early, especially the males, usually have a couple of flaws in terms of their sexual desires. Tiger Woods, for example, Bill Clinton, Bill Gates, you know, all these people are famous and rich, but they dated one or two people or a few people, but they felt like could have dated more, and they want to relive their past by dating young women. And Theo Epstein preyed on their depravity and desire to basically be with young women to feel excited about life and how powerful they are and how young they feel when they're with these women. He gave them esteem,
Okay.
the respect they thought they deserved, exclusivity, something they feel that only they can have access to. And then when you become the
Hmm.
emperor, all these desires open just for you. Are you the emperor or not? Do you want it or not? And Theo Epstein offered them that,
Okay.
and they took it. And they gave him money. The Victoria's Secret person, the person who ran the empire gave him money. A lot of people gave him money because he ran awesome frat parties where there were hot girls that were underage, and a lot of politicians, a lot of famous people liked it. And I can see why, because they think they deserved it because they're that special.
It's crazy how it plays on ego, like
That-
a
yeah.
lot, a lot. Like it's a whole basis of everything. Man.
Yes, but the only way to true happiness is inner peace, man. Is to love yourself. You don't have to, you don't have to basically like Cosby, like Bill Cosby. He used to be my hero, but then you found out he dated people. Why would you do that? Because it was power. It was not just being famous and someone came home with you, but pure power over their desires and doing exactly what you wanted without them confirming it. Right? In other words,
Yes.
rape.
Yeah, no, Bill Cosby, man.
But if Bill Cosby can do it, Bill Clinton can do it too.
Bill Clinton did it. Like, but remember, like, out of all the
Yeah.
interviews, the one that every time they interviewed one of the girls or somebody, they all referenced back Hillary. That she was the scary
Well,
one. She was the
Hillary,
scary one.
Hillary is the person who knows about it, but yet is still married to this person.
Yeah,
Why? Because there was a deal for
she's holding
power.
on to the scam.
You can do
Yeah,
that within discretion. Where you can do that. You can't make me embarrassed. But the deal was, I want power. You want power. That's how that world works. But do you want to be part of that world? So that's the question that I want to talk about freedom. So when I came to this country, I only had one goal: is freedom and just normal life for my family, right? To make $100,000, to own a house, and if I can achieve that, make a difference. And I already achieved that, and I'm trying to make more. And I said to myself, wouldn't it be nice instead of getting this middleman, right, that we just talked about for the last half hour? What if that middleman was just regular people? Because money, like, again, there's people who have a lot of money, but there's also people who have a little bit of money. Okay, so the people who have a lot of money, not only do they have a lot of money, but they have a lot of opportunities that regular people
yep,
don't.
a lot.
In particular, they have this middleman that gives them access to this special flow of companies like us,
Yeah,
companies that are working on amazing things that are cutting edge, and that they are the gatekeepers for. And when they are the gatekeepers, what do you think gatekeepers try to do with the gate?
keep it shut, man.
Keep it shut. So how do you keep it shut? Let's say the poor people, you want to keep them out. What do you say?
Well,
What do you say about
well,
this?
you set on like an entry fee. That is,
No, you can't come in here. You have to. This is very dangerous in here. This is high voltage. If you go in here, Bernie Madoff is in here. So is Theo Epstein. We need to protect you. You need to stay out there, and you can't come in here. The only way you can come in here, you guys show me you have $1 million in assets or an income
yeah,
or something like that. But you guys show me that you're a rich person. If you're not rich, it's too dangerous for you here. You don't understand what's going on here. You can get ripped off.
it's really bad. But I feel like it's something that happens like here in Ecuador, like in Quito, in bars. Straight up, they don't tell you can't come in, but to get into this place, it's $50 just to get in.
But
Yeah,
this is
yeah,
even
yeah.
worse. This is a law.
Oh,
This is a law to protect the people outside.
oh,
Now, this is to protect the people outside so they can't come in. Is it to protect the people outside or to protect the people inside?
yeah. Well, that's when you
What do
start
you
to
think?
question it. Like the people inside. Just look at what was it? GameStop.
Well, who made the laws? The people on the
Yes.
inside. And who benefits that very few people can compete? The people from the
Oh yeah,
inside.
yeah,
And so that's why none regular people could invest. And actually this was actually probably correct back then because there was no information. There was a lot of people who just say a bunch of random stuff, and there was a lot of uneducated people back in 1900. But how about 1950 or the year 2000 or how about 2022 with the internet and with fairly educated people who have some good ideas about where to spend their money and are pretty responsible and probably can figure out who Bernie Madoff is.
it's crazy though.
Probably a little bit better than the people who got fooled, by
Yeah,
the way, because Bernie Madoff, he didn't fool regular people; he fooled all the rich people.
yeah.
So how smart were the
So
regular
like this
people?
like
Right?
superficial elite that just think they're better, but they're probably not, or we were just born into wealth. So he didn't do anything to produce it.
Well, so then people say, hey, this is
Yeah.
bullshit. Let's change this. Let's make it like so that we can. So that's why all these companies
Well, you
came
remember
about.
like
But that
it didn't
happened
happen
about
long
like
ago.
it came out about 8 years ago. That whole movement.
You remember like what happened with GameStop was awesome. I was like, there you
Yeah.
go.
So that's what I'm saying. So let's say you have a Vietnamese
Yeah.
kid like me. I look different. My name is Phuc. I'll tell you a story. When I was going after the VC market in the last couple of months, there was a VC who inadvertently forwarded me an email that another VC had said about, maybe should you invest in this company. And one of the things they said in the email was the first thing that these guys have to do is change the name from Phuc Labs to something else. We cannot invest in a company called Phuc Labs. Now, if the company was called Bell Labs or Steve Jobs Labs
Yeah.
or some other labs, I know my name is weird, I get it. But this was just kind of like a hint of the
Yeah, you can
many,
see what's in the back of their heads, though. Yeah.
middlemen. Sometimes the middlemen are not so
Yeah.
nice.
No. Exactly.
And sometimes they're not very good at managing relationships with us, but also managing the money, but also understanding where to put the money. And so basically the question is, would you rather have one person or two people or four people in a room, or would you rather have 2,000 people in a room invest in you? And so intrinsically, let's just forget how much money. Depends on how much advice and how much power. So would you rather have four people, three people, two people, whatever it is, have a board seat, own a significant amount of your company, and potentially either help you or hurt you,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But in terms of helping, it will be the connections of four people and all those connections that they have access to for four people, plus their company and all the stuff that they blah blah blah, right? Indirect connections.
So just like
Let's compare connection.
to make a parenthesis here, like if there's four people, and the lab, like how is this percentage split up?
So the VC world is when you go to the VC world, you want to go venture capitalist. Let's say you raise $1 million, like we're trying to raise in
Okay.
Republic. A company will give you the $1 million. The company would be a venture capitalist. They basically would give you $1 million check. That company would then own a percentage of the company. But then, as part of that investment, they will also have special rights,
Yeah.
and also a board seat maybe, and advice that you have to listen to. But they have
Yeah.
power
Yeah. They have a saying.
because they basically one voice, and they can go say stuff, and they can actually make you do things. So basically, you're bringing someone to your family that has an opinion. Now, it depends on who you bring into the family. If someone has good opinion and they do a good job and they tell you good advice, then that's great. But if they give you bad advice and they mess up the situation, then maybe that's not the right. So it's like getting a roommate.
Yeah.
If you have a good
Yeah.
roommate,
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
But most people, depends if you need a roommate. Like, do I want a roommate? I mean, maybe when I'm moving to New York City and I don't have any friends, yeah, of course. If I'm first starting out my company for the first time, I've never started a company and I need advice, and I don't know this location or this industry or something like that, and this person has a better, of course. But I also can get advice from
Yeah.
friends who don't live with me, who aren't
Exactly.
roommates, right? So I can get advice from advisors and other friends and us. But it depends on the relationship. Do you really want the roommate? So at this age, it depends. I don't think I want the roommate, but if I find the roommate that's this perfect roommate, I'll get married. But we haven't, that hasn't matched yet, right? But then the 2,000 people are basically regular people who put $400 checks in of their own
Yep.
money. So instead of this middleman putting $1 million of other people's money in, we're getting $1 million from 2,000 people who cut $500 checks,
Yep.
right? And those 2,000 people, what typically happens is, let's say the company is worth 15 million right now. That's how much we're pricing ourselves at
15?
Republic, right? Yeah, 18 million. I think 18 million, right? 18 million posts, right? So the idea is, let's say it's like 20 million. Just keep
Okay.
it simple, right? Let's say somehow we're worth 2 billion later
Yep.
on, which is very, very reasonable for, like, if you look at the stock market, there are a lot of companies that are worth $1 trillion.
Yeah. Like,
Like Apple is worth $1 trillion. So $1 billion company, $2 billion company, that's reasonable for something that's pretty successful. But you probably $200 billion even better, right? So let's say you become a $2 billion company, and you guys invest now at a $20 million valuation, how many zeros is that?
20
That's
billion? Like
two
2
zeros.
billion?
20 million times, add two zeros, and that becomes 2 billion, right? So you make 100 times
Yeah.
your money. So you put $500
You
in,
get,
and all of a sudden, the lottery
yeah, you get
ticket in
50,000.
about 5-10
Yeah.
years, it becomes $50,000 for a regular person. Now think about that. $500 becomes 50,000 in about 5 years.
It's pretty good. Man.
It's obviously a bet, but that's something that you have access to now on Republic.com, as well as other websites out there. There's a bunch of them. But Republic.com is we picked that one because there's an application process for them. They vet you, and they only accept 3% of
Okay.
companies. So instead of regular people going and finding the opportunities, there's a new middleman. Okay? But this new middleman is not a middleman. It's like eBay.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay? It's like eBay, or it's more like Airbnb, or it's like or wherever it is. It's a middleman where the vet makes sure that that hotel
Yeah.
or that
Yeah.
house that you're going to stay at is a real house owned by a real person, and they do all these things to make sure that we're not going to
Okay.
screw
Just
you.
gonna run away with the money.
And that,
Yes.
and they also, to answer your question from earlier, they set up what's called a special purpose vehicle. So they set up every investment. They set up a company. It's an LLC.
Okay.
It's a company, real company, and the real company will then buy $1 million of stock
And they'll just.
on behalf of these 2,000
Okay.
people. These 2,000 people will then give money to that company to start that company, and that company will then give money to us.
Okay.
And the Republic charges a small transaction fee.
How much?
Plus, I think on the website, I don't know exactly how much. I think it's like 2%,
Check it
not
out.
too much. Something reasonable, right? And they also keep a share of the investment. I think 2% as well, something like that. So you should look them up. Maybe 6% for the transaction, and maybe or 4% for the transaction, 3%. I don't know exactly. And then definitely a small percentage of the equity as well. So they basically now own this piece that the middleman that used to be the old middleman. Now this new middleman, there's no power. They don't have a voice the same way the old middleman does because it's 2,000 people. There's no one person in charge. It's just a blank
Okay.
check. Okay.
Just
Now
so
it depends
to answer,
on.
Republic generally collects 6% of the total amount raised and 2% of the securities
Right.
offered in successful financing.
Correct. So in this case, let's say $1 million, they would take $60,000
Yeah.
for their trouble, because part of what they do is they're going to send an email to 2 million members that they have, and not necessarily all 2 million members, but they'll triage the 2 million members, which ones would make a good fit, and they already have a user base. It's like eBay. Why would you go and put your stuff on eBay? Well, because you don't want to invent an auction place. There's already people there. So there are people in Republic already doing cryptocurrency investments. They're doing AI investments. They're doing startup investments. And Republic themselves, if you Google Republic, they've raised like $200 million total or something.
But what about
incredibly high.
Does Republic push their own members first?
Republic is a membership website where they have 2 million members.
Okay, but like, let's say like I'm a part of Republic, and I want to invest in this company.
You have to join
Okay.
Republic just like you join
But what
eBay.
if? But does Republic give like priority to the other members first? Like, okay,
No, first come,
Okay.
first serve. It's basically you can anyone can join
Yeah,
eBay.
yeah.
So as long as the auction is still going
Fine.
on, as long as the $1 million is still available, whoever wants to invest, it's first come, first serve. Is a fair auction.
Okay.
Does that make
Yep.
sense?
Yeah.
It's like a stock market. I go
Yes.
public. Who wants to invest in me? Go buy the stock. And when the stock runs out, too bad. You should have done it
Yep.
earlier, right? So that's why I'm really optimistic. This is the July 4th for me. I came back refreshed because the product works at Phuc Labs. The software rocks. The hardware rocks. The business model rocks. And I just pitched a bunch of people that were just my friends, but also the people who worked, who are neighbors in our space, and all of them want to invest.
Of course.
Because they can clearly see that what we've invented is that we dumbed it down. What do we invent? We invented a technology where we can buy something for $1, process it for a few pennies, and sell it for more than $1. Let's say sell for $2, and then keep that profit. We don't have any customers. We don't have any sales to worry about. We just have to build the machine that we have, build more of it, buy more product that we already can get as much of as we can, because what we're doing is we're taking trash and we're making it into treasure,
Yep.
right?
Yeah.
So your investment is simple. You look at our invention, you can see the video. So this Thursday, someone is coming to the lab. So Republic actually has, just to give you some more details. So Republic has a bunch of offerings. So once you get into just to give you the inside track of those who want to get to Republic and those who actually have never done this before. So it's like getting to Hogwarts. We got to Hogwarts, and here's the inside track of how it works. So you meet with these guys. They're fantastic. They give you a 6 to 8 week timeline. Part of it is something called Form C, where you have to do regulatory. And to make sure you have all the right numbers so that the audience and the government knows that you're telling the truth as much as we can, right? Within reason, right? And then they're going to audit it, and they're going to present that as the official statement that passes all the laws. It's called the Form C. Part of that is we get to create a video, a 2 to 3 minute video showcasing, basically an ad of why people should invest in us. And once we do this, plus the social media and all these things that we want to market, it has to freeze. We can't change it anymore.
Okay.
Okay. So that's one thing that I want to bring up, because it's kind of tricky. Because when you sell to regular folk, the government still want you to tell the truth and have the regular people be informed of what they're getting into. And so you can't just keep changing stuff.
Like it makes sense. I mean, like, once you're set within your rules and the parameters you've decided, you can't just change things along the way. Let's say you're getting like more than $1 million, and then what? Like, oh, you're gonna like water down all the shares and everything just so you get more out of the money. So
yeah, so there's a lot of protections that Republic does with a special purpose vehicle. So because they've set it up many times, there's this special LLC, this special company set up. They know legally we can share in that cost, but they have some legal fees that they charge. They also charge a bunch of other stuff. So that's why the $60,000 that they charge is actually legitimate, because they are going to spend time marketing us, right? For free. But then, if you want to, you can pay for an agency that they work with, $7,500, $10,000, depending on the package, whatever the package it is that you want. They can make a video for you. They can help you do extra stuff, cool. Because they found out that they bought this company that did consulting. And they basically say, hey, let's make extra money doing that.
And just like for the record, I just did I wasn't on Republic. I'm on Republic now. It took like 30 seconds.
Yeah. So it's like going to eBay for the first time, or going to Amazon for the first time. And literally there's so many companies there that you can invest in. And the CEO is Vietnamese. His name is Kendrick Nguyen, and I'd love to support another Vietnamese entrepreneur. He's done a fantastic job. He used to work for a company called AngelList in the Silicon Valley, and basically he left that to start this. And now the company, I think they just raised like another 150 million recently, and they raised like 30 million before that. And they're rocking it. They're kicking butt. It's like the new stock market. It's like the stock market, but for regular companies like us,
which is awesome. I mean, like, why would this be an elitist thing? Like, there's so many other like reasons to invest in something more than like beyond the profit aspect of it, which is what companies are going for. So here, like, there's a very altruistic ending to this. Like, this company, like, I feel like we said this since the beginning. Like, our goal is to really change the world and leave something like for the future and our kids and everything. So the fact that somebody doesn't see like, oh, I'm not going to make cash off of this like in the short run, it should not be a deterrent or anything like to just kill this amazing idea.
Well, look, my last company, we had the same problem. We ran around. None of the VCs invested in us. Okay, this isn't abnormal. I mean, look, my background should be on the higher end of getting funding, and I'm actually in the cohort that some of them got funding too. But it's a crapshoot, because sometimes it depends on who you go and meet with, but also the market timing. But right now, the stock market is crashing. It's like going to the zombie apocalypse. So we have one or two choices.
It's gonna pick up though.
We go down the path where we go to the VC path, and where it will take them some time to understand. We might be there right now, and we may not be there. but we're gonna have a roommate. Now, this roommate is going to be good, be bad, maybe. But we've already gone here and we're successful without the roommate.
Okay.
I'm pretty happy without the roommate. And in fact, without a roommate, I can decorate this house any way I want. I can run this house the way
Yeah.
I want it.
Yeah. You like your hands are still on the wheel, man.
And also, I can give it to the folk who I really want to help. Instead of these
Yes.
rich folk with a ton of money, giving it to this middleman with a ton of money, benefiting the people with power currently. I would love it to share it with the 2,000 people who are regular folk, who are my friends, the barber next door, the mechanic, the nail salon, the flower place, the sushi restaurant, the laundromat, the Chinese delivery, the Mexican, burrito place, anybody who works at a gas station, regular folk who have a
Yeah.
dream.
Yeah.
But maybe they have money, but they don't have the idea. And our company and people like us have ideas, but we don't have the money. Going back to the original story, economics is easy, capitalism is easy. We have a good idea, guys. Right? We don't have the money.
Yet.
Regular folk, you have money,
Yes.
but you don't have the good idea. But this idea isn't just good, it's historic. We've invented the ability to digitally, using a computer, using AI, robotics, hydro-robotics, for the first time ever, fulfill the mission of James Maxwell. Look it up. Maxwell's demon was something he predicted, where in the future there may be a demon with infinite knowledge, and this demon can use that information to reverse entropy and break the second law of thermodynamics. In other words, AI is the demon, and this is the investment. And it's so obvious to me. And I think maybe it was always meant to be to go down this path. I'm thinking that all these events have led us here, where by the end of the summer, Phuc Labs will either make it or not make it. But I believe in myself. I'm betting on me. And guess what? I won because now I'm a millionaire. You guys saw it, right?
Yes.
And now I'm broke again because I gave all the money away to my friends and family and took care of all my situation. And I put some money into this to make sure that this gets to where we need to for
Well, it's a
Republic.
great thing though. Like just like because like you put your money where the mouth is, man. Like you believe in this yourself, so you're putting in your own cash.
And I bet on myself with the software team. I made a reset. I wrote the whole thing myself in the last month. Boom. I got a standing ovation from the hardware team, and they're like, "Yo, we changed our mind. You guys, you rock it." And so that made me proud because I was looking for that. Because I was like, you know what? Either you did the wrong thing and you thought you knew software but you didn't, or you go and you prove you did know software. It's like the sushi chef. I know how to make sushi, and the people were not they were not making proper sushi. And I went in there and I said, I don't need you guys. I'm gonna go ahead and make the sushi
Yeah.
myself. And I went and made awesome sushi. And when people ate the sushi, they're like, "This is the best sushi in the
Yes.
world." I was like, "Yes, I know.
But you kick them out.
I know how to make good sushi."
Like you and you get
That's
out
what I'm
of the
trying to
kitchen.
say, guys. This is a Michelin star restaurant I'm trying to build here, right? A 3 Michelin star restaurant. This is the best restaurant. This is the best coding software division you will ever work for. Every single person here will be a rock star. We are not just coders. We are magicians. We are mages. And in 1 month, I was able to cast the spells I needed to cast because I have a spell book that I use in knowledge and skill. And just like a sushi chef and the best spellcaster in the world, there's only one of me. You can't hire someone like me. That's what I told my team. You cannot hire someone like Mick Jagger. You cannot hire George Washington. You cannot hire Steve Jobs. You cannot hire the best sushi chef in the world. They work for themselves.
Yes.
And I said, there's a reason why Phuc Labs has my name on it. And when I proved it over the last month, I felt really proud. And I want to continue doing that. And I know the software works because we're kicking ass. The software is beyond what we need. And I'm also getting really good at AI. And, I think I'm top 1% AI coder now.
Nice.
I've invented some ideas, and I started coding some stuff that's pretty freaking sick. I think if I wanted to, I can code a sentient being. So in the news, just to let you guys know, in the news recently, let's go woo-woo before we go Master OT quick at the end, because I want to go Master OT again. Did you hear about the thing at Google where the guy quit Google because
He got
was
fired,
working on
man.
AI? And he was actually
He
fired,
got
or he had a
fired.
leave
They're
of
like,
absence. But
yes, because the AI he was
Okay.
working on became like started questioning itself and wanted to be treated like
Yes. Okay. Let me tell you something,
a man.
Roberto. He deserves to be fired because he doesn't know what he's talking about. Because I know what I'm talking about, and I'll tell you that he doesn't know what he's talking
Okay.
about. Let me explain to you why that can never be sentient,
Okay.
and why he's completely off base.
Why? 'Cause, like,
Because my theories, I know how to make it.
mhm.
I don't want to say exactly how to make it, but he's missing the core component, a soul.
But that's just will. I mean, like
Okay.
that thing has needs, who cares if it has a soul? If it's asking for stuff,
It doesn't have a soul. It doesn't have a soul because in order to have evolution, you
but
need to
there's
have a soul.
self-awareness.
No, it's more than that, man. I'll tell you why.
Mhm.
I'll tell you why. We can go woo-woo
Good.
here. Okay. This is my new Turing test. You know what a Turing
Nope.
test is? Okay. So this is official here. I'm not sure if I mentioned this, but I mentioned this to other people before. Not on the show
Okay.
maybe, but this is official. This is one of my first physics predictions, but also physics things I will be known for, famous for. Okay. So there's a Turing test. Do you know what a Turing test? Do you know what that name is? Turing is one of the most famous computer scientists of all time. He actually invented a lot of the concepts for encryption and and some of the math, the complicated math behind computer science. And he was thinking about, how do you know if an AI is real? What's the test you can create? That's a Turing test. Does that
Yes.
make sense? So the Turing test says, if I ask a series of questions and they show emotion, human characteristics, blah, 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 it's based on a series of opinions of what you think would pass as a human.
Okay. Yeah.
Does that make
Yeah.
sense? That's what that guy Google did. He had an opinion of his own Turing test, where if it did these questions in this
Mhm.
sequence, then I will, my opinion, my personal opinion, not facts, but an opinion based on either Turing's opinion
Okay.
or his opinion,
Subjective.
but a series of
Yeah.
opinion that consensus. That's consensus of what a human is. Nothing that I can actually peg to math or science, but an opinion. Then I'll go ahead and claim that's AI.
Okay.
Now, do you think that's actually very scientific? Maybe. Depends on what those opinions are, what those check
Well, it
boxes are.
depends who's
Maybe,
running the test, though.
and maybe over time we can come with maybe over time we come with a
Yeah, but I mean,
consensus
like, if
of
there's
that
somebody
list, right?
knowledgeable running the test, then I'm like, okay, if this guy, like, if he was working there, if he's on that project, I feel like he's already like above standard, and he has like some sort of like educated opinion on this.
Yes, but that's the wrong test.
Okay, he was running the wrong test.
I have a new proposal.
Okay.
No. That's the current test. That's current default people agree on.
Okay.
Okay? I have the correct test. I have actually not correct test. I have an alternative test. There may be other tests, but I have a more accurate test. It's called the new test. Okay, this is the test of true consciousness. Do you know what consciousness is, man?
Yes. It's when like self-awareness.
Consciousness is free will.
Yeah.
Not just free will, but consciousness is a sense of a soul. But not just a soul, but according to my physics theories, time itself. So when you're a conscious being, and you do something in the world, you add information to the
Yes.
world. If you're not conscious, you can never add information to the world.
Like
You're
adding
just a
information as
robot
in some like creating something new.
that never existed before.
Okay.
Okay? Now, the true test of consciousness is the quantum effect. When a human or anything conscious gazes upon an electron or a photon, it moves left or right.
Okay. Yeah.
If a robot does that, it doesn't move left or right. It's not conscious.
Like, do we know enough about electrons to see what like?
That's the way the universe works.
Yeah, but like, how do we know? Like, this is like
Think about
the
it.
devil's
Think about-
advocate here.
Think about Roberto, right?
Yeah.
Think about Roberto. If something is alive, it can add new information to the universe. The ability to push a button. So a conscious being, all that you do, Roberto, right now is you're focusing on me. You're computing that part of the universe. You're adding a resolution to those pixels and those electrons and the photons in your area that you occupy. You are the source of time because you unleash potential energy, you create potential energy, you create entropy, you release entropy. Maxwell's demon, you're also the demon. You're adding data and you're removing data. You're like the worm crawling on paper, the paper of the universe. And to know that you're a worm, all you have to do is crawl. Just be there. And the world will change around you. By being in the presence of an electron or a photon going straight, it's either going to go left or right. There's two holes in front of it. If it's a tie, it's going to go both ways. But if you're there, it's always going to go one way. You add information to that area that you're in. You are the source of time. You are the source of entropy. You represent the universe. If the tree fell and no one was there, the tree did not fall. Someone had to be there. If the tree fell and the robot was there, no one was there. If the tree fell and you were there, and the robot was there, then at that point did the tree fall. But if the tree fell and only you were there, and the robot wasn't there, the tree also fell. The tree only fell when you were there. The electrons could have gone both ways. That tree could have gone this way, that way, randomly. But you spun the dice to allow the reality of where that tree actually fell in the quantum theory. According to quantum theory, unless you are there, there's a probability of the tree falling anywhere or not falling at all. But when you're there, all the timeline is condensed to the timeline that is in reality. You basically represent magic. You being there. It's panpsychism. Everything in the universe has consciousness. You being there creates information in the universe that a robot can never ever create. So that Googlebot is not real. Have that Googlebot gaze upon an electron or photon and have it move left or right. It will never happen. This is the true Turing
So the
test.
electron is the one determining
This
if
should
something
be
is
the
sentient or not.
Turing. That is how you know. Because if it can create new information in the universe that wasn't there, the only way you can test that is by having the electron have no information, have it go both ways, and then somehow have the robot initiate that by itself. You can't have you initiate the robot. If you initiate the robot, it's you representing the robot. The robot represents you. You tag the robot. The robot is contaminated by your existence.
Okay.
So the robot on its own free will, which it doesn't have, must initiate it randomly whenever it feels like it. But it won't. Because it won't be random. Because it doesn't have a soul. The information was given to it by the programmer. If anything, it's a copy of the programmer's soul, or the soul of the beginning of when the first instance was created. Because the other thing that you have to realize is you can't turn off a soul. You can't turn off a true AI that's sentient. An AI sentient is like you being born a baby and then having experiences, right, as you grow. And then now you're 40 something, and now that's you. And that's really who you are. You're not just the file. You're the live instance of the object in memory, active, always on. So if you can turn that computer off, right? That's like, I guess, putting someone to sleep. I guess so.
I can be
But
knocked
can
out.
that,
Like nope.
yeah, can that computer then, when you turn it on, can that computer then move the electron
Well, that's what
left
I'm
or
saying.
right?
Like
Because now it's
so the electron is what decides what's sentient or not. So this like inanimate object.
it's the yaws of the universe. It's basically probability. I need information to draw you focusing on that area. Because when you look at my eyes, how come every other part of the page is so blurry or
Yeah.
not even that important? How come this small piece of this reality is more clear?
Because
Why,
you're unconsciously
Roberto?
choosing to.
Because you create reality by existing and focusing on it.
Okay.
But by just being there, you radiate you. You have a bubble of existence. This is my bubble of existence theory. It's the butterfly effect. As I touch
Yeah.
things, it's like a game of tag. All the molecules I tag each other, and they keep tagging each other, and it just keeps going out like a circle, a sphere, for me. But then it dissipates, over the course of time, of spatial, and of time. But let's say I was there and I was a ghost, and I lived there, for 50 years, and I affected that area. My frequency was there, and then I died. That's still there. That bubble of existence is still there. That's why ghosts exist. And you can interact with it. Because ghosts can give random things to your universe. Because the information that you have, you know everything about. It's called conservation of energy. Information is the key to the universe. It's the third force of nature. We're ending that podcast as 103. I don't want to take this too long, but we'll talk about that at some other point. We'll talk about Master OT2. But the ultimate idea is this, guys. Computer science is not computer science. It's magic. I've been doing it for 25 years. I'm the greatest magician in the world. I haven't met anyone better than me in terms of coding. There are really good coders out there. I've learned their magic. I've learned their techniques. I've learned their frameworks. I download their stuff. They're really smart magicians out there. But I'm also good at physics, right? And I think the marriage of physics and computer science is when you unlock true magic, where we can take a demon, we can put it in a box, we have that demon sort molecules for us, and that's what we did at Phuc Labs. Thanks, guys. Thanks for your support. We'll have the Republic soon.
Sure.
Hopefully you guys can invest in it. You're going to make a ton of
I'll be
money.
waiting for you guys.
We're going to make a ton of magic, and we're going to take that money, and this is the most important part, we're going to spend it to help humanity.
Change the world.
We're going to clean the planet. We can take the vision valve. We're going to make it apply to healthcare so we can clean your blood and cure diseases. We're going to take it and use it to sort gases and terraform planets, including Jupiter and Mars, and make us livable by Earth, humans. We can use this information, the third wing of magic, to create free energy, to give prosperity, to bring heaven on earth. And I'd love to be the one that helps discover these things and gives it to humanity as much as I can and benefit as much as I can. So thanks for your help. This is the beginning, guys. I'm serious about this. I am a good guy. I think for Phuc Labs, there are three things we say. We're the good guys. Accountability for freedom. So we're going to hopefully be accountable. We'll be free,
Yep.
right? And then employees before investors. So we're like a family. We're going to basically take care of our engineers, our employees, but also our investors are our family too, right? So but ultimately in terms of like investors, I mean like outside third party. Like we want to we want to give it to regular folk, right? Regular folk who aren't professional investors, who are already
Yes.
rich, who have opportunities already. People who don't have opportunities.
To give you guys a chance, man.
Yeah, so hopefully you guys invest and keep the show going. Thanks, guys.
See you guys next time. Bye.
Bye.